Welcome, everyone. I call this March 24th, 2026 meeting of council to order at 5 p.m. This meeting will be held in a hybrid manner where members of council, staff, and the public can participate electronically. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the township website. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 and in accordance with the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, that all information attained is considered part of the public record. All rules apply to the meeting as if everyone is attending in person, and if there is a problem with the technology impacting the proceedings of the meeting may be recessed. I would ask anyone that can to stand for the playing of the national anthem. We acknowledge that we are being hosted on the ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee, Mississauga, and Omama-Winnene people. We acknowledge and welcome the presence of all Indigenous people, including the Métis, Inuit, and other First Nations from across this vast land, who also makes this place home. The lands we are on today are recognized in the Truro Wampum, Dish with One Spoon Treaty, Treaty 27, and the Crawford Purchase. Okay, so the first item up is confirmation of agenda. Do I have a mover for the confirmation? Deputy Mayor, so moved, seconded by Councillor Ennis. There's no additions or deletions? Call the question, all in favor, motion has passed. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof for this evening's meeting? None? I would entertain the motion to go into closed session if someone could also read it when they move it. Deputy Mayor?
Through your worship, I move that council now move into closed session to consider personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees for the 2026 Civic Awards, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, Kingston Area Taxi Commission, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, zoning bylaw amendment decision implications pursuant to section 239(2)(b) and F of the Municipal Act.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Broderick. All in favor? Motion is passed. We'll go into closed. Okay, welcome, everyone. We actually started the council meeting at 5 p.m. this evening. We have been in closed session since then. And we would give a rise and report that we received information on litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality and the Kingston Area Taxi Commission. And we received advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for the purpose, zoning bylaw amendment decision implications, and provided direction to staff. And there is one motion that is coming out of closed, which will be brought up on the screen. Just give a second for everyone to be able to read it. And if we could have a motion to approve it as provided on the screen. Councillor Broderick.
I would move that the report from the Community and Customer Services Department, Heritage, Culture and Tourism Division dated March 24, 2026, re 2026 Civic Awards be received and that the staff be directed to notify the 2026 award recipients as chosen by council, and the names of those awarded remain confidential until all recipients have been notified.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Parks. All in favor? Motion is passed. Okay, so the next item up is presentations. We have Thomas Hart here for Executive Director for Patient Care and Deputy Chief Nursing Executive from the Kingston Health Sciences Centre. So if you just have a seat, just pull one of the mics over, just push the button until the light. Yep, there you go. You're live.
Great. Okay.
And you can go ahead and proceed whenever you wish.
Great. Thank you. It's the one that was, no, the other one. we just had. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. As you mentioned, my name is Tom Hart. I work for Kingston Health Sciences Centre. I've been there for about 24 years, and my role is the Executive Director for Patient Care and Deputy Chief Nursing Executive, and I've been asked and I'm representing the Kingston Health Sciences Senior Executive Team today. My purpose for today is really to circle back and explain the clinical nature, scope, and activity of the Transitional Care Unit or alternate health facility, and really talk to the governance, safety, and operational controls in place, and specifically KHSC's role in the oversight accountability of the HF, as well as hopefully speak to some of the questions and concerns that have been raised by the council and by the public at the last two meetings. So scope of the alternate health facility. So it is a clinically supported transitional care unit for short-term medically supervised patients who no longer require hospital services. Patients are only admitted to the AHF or transitional care unit after a hospital's discharge or to avoid an admission to hospital. It's really focused on patients transitioning home, transitioning to rehabilitation, long-term care, or back into the community. What the AHF is not is a for-profit or private care facility. It's not a shelter or a treatment program or a substance use facility. It's not open for self-referrals or walk-ins. And the patient population is not subject to change without KHSC, Ontario Health, and the Ministry of Health's directives and approval. In terms of the transitional care unit, we have 120 patients currently across 3 different streams. Rehabilitation, which is short stay, up to typically 60 days, which is really focused on getting people strong enough to return to their home. And sometimes it's strong enough to participate in more intensive rehab programs such as Providence Care Hospital's rehabilitation. Patients waiting for their long-term care bed, and what we call alternate level of care patients. So patients that maybe are waiting for a palliative care bed, they're waiting for a retirement home bed, or construction in their home so they can return to their home. Or sometimes we just haven't decided on what the patient's long-term destination is based on, are they able to return home or no, they can't. So they're going to go to long-term care. There's 3 specialized units at the transitional care unit. The first floor is a memory care unit. We have a second floor of the long-term care patients waiting, and the third is the rehabilitation or short stay patients, although some of those patient populations and beds may flex depending on the demand from the community. A little bit about the evolution of transitional care units and AHFs. So they really were born out of the pandemic, and AHFs were introduced as an emergency measure to protect hospital capacity and patient access within our region and across Ontario. These models were implemented rapidly through Ministry of Health directives. And since then, AHFs across Ontario have been a sustained capacity outlet for Ontario. And that's something that hasn't gone away and we don't likely to see go away in any time in the future. So since then, across Ontario, municipalities and government bodies and hospitals have been trying to catch up and make changes to ensure that there's accountability and compliance with these new models of care, which is what we're seeing with the Windsor site now. It's a broader transition across Ontario that was not isolated to this particular home. To give you an idea of some of the provincial changes that have happened since 2024, the Ministry of Health provided mandates to all transitional care units across the province that they must meet Public Hospital Act requirements. Also, the physical space and reporting standards need to be consistently met, which meant that the transitional care unit was reclassified as an alternate health facility under the Ministry of Health and under KHSC's governance. That also include policy enhancements. So every patient that is at the transitional care unit, there's patient reporting and outcomes similar to patients admitted to the Kingston General Hotel Du Hospital back to the Ministry of Health and to CIHI. And there was also requirements for facility compliance. So every transitional care unit by March 31st, 2027 is required to meet health facility codes outlined by the Ministry of Health. KHSC's accountability, what that means in this context. The AHF operates as one of KHSC's sites, so everyone knows about Kingston General and Hotel Du, but we have several other satellite sites. We have satellite renal units in Napanee and Belleville, Bancroft, Brockville, and so this would be another site under KHSC's purview. We hold accountability for the patient selection, the care delivery, and the clinical outcomes that occur at the transitional care unit, as well as the staffing models and credentialing of physicians and nurse practitioners and quality oversight. In terms of regulatory framework, we are governed by the Ministry of Health and Ontario Health, and we operate under the Public Hospitals Act. We are subject to all the provincial standards, reporting and audits that any hospital is subject to. An important clarification that MyLife Retirement is KHSC's landlord and not the operator. Oversight, monitoring, improvement. So KHSC, we have active senior leadership oversight. This is part of my personal portfolio. I'm on site at least once a week, as well as KHSC managers. We have on-site clinical reviews, accreditation, quality assessments, and continuous monitoring. Of course, we take our role very seriously, and after the council meetings and public feedback, we had a KHSC senior leadership debrief on the feedback from both the public and the council, and we were already taking action to try and alleviate some of those concerns. So we've engaged a real estate agent to try and look for parking options. We've worked with the owner of the home to try and arrange a shuttle for employees to alleviate some of the parking congestion. We've asked that the owner of the home commit to having a stop sign prior to the sidewalk, which they have committed to do. Ongoing improvements, of course, we're always looking at how to communicate, engage with our patients, our families, and the community, and how care standards can be met and exceeded. Just give you a visual of this transitional care unit and how we support. So of course, this unit supports all of Southeastern Ontario, which is KHSC's catchment area. And we currently admit patients from Kingston General Hospital, Providence Care Hospital, Perth Smith Falls Hospital, Lennox Niagara Hospital, Brockville Hospital, as well as community care patients, so patients that can no longer have their cares met in their home, but don't necessarily need an acute care hospital admission. Our commitment to the Community and Council, KHSC, we have a very long history and proud history of collaboration with our municipal partners, and we are very committed to transparency and ongoing dialogue, and we have respect for the local concerns along with our regional health obligations. We are certainly open to input on additional safeguards and operational adjustments, and very willing to work with Council and the public to strengthen assurances and comfort level. Of course, we want to balance this community context with also our system level and patient care needs. In closing, some key points to emphasize, KHSC has full oversight for the governance clinical operations at the HF Windsor. All activity within the building is regulated, supervised, and aligned with provincial health policy and the Public Hospitals Act. We have a robust governance, safety, and operational controls in place. And of course, they're subject to continuous monitoring and improvement. KHSC is very committed to transparency, responsiveness, and collaboration with Loyalist Township, the council, and the public that we serve. So thank you once again for the opportunity to present and provide this additional context. And of course, we very much value our role as a trusted community partner and remain committed to ongoing dialogue and working collaboratively with our local communities and the regional health system. Thank you.
Thank you for providing that information. I'll just turn to council. If there are any questions this evening to be presented. Councilor Primer.
Thank you for the presentation, Thomas. Just to clarify, so, and I can't remember the exact wording, but you have to upgrade your, some work to be done by March 27th. Can you give me an idea like what kind of work that is?
Sure. So some of that included upgrading to B2 occupancy to meet the standards. So that's such as looking at our fire systems, fire separation doors, looking at clean and dirty utility rooms. We had to look at the number of patients used per bathroom, for example. So all those standards that the ministry would expect us to meet in the hospital setting.
And if I could just one more, Your Worship, just so I get this straight in my head.
Sure.
You are the governance of not of the building, but of the care that's provided there. And then there's a subgroup that provides that care.
Yeah.
And then there's a landlord. Is that right?
You got it. So My Life Retirement is our landlord for the building and site maintenance. And we currently contract out some of the care and management to Bayshore as a health provider. But at the end of the day, KHSC is accountable for all the activity and clinical outcomes of the work in that building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions this evening? Seeing none, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. You did shed a lot of light on the other side, other than the application, the life side. So that's very good to have too, and also the governance.
Thank you so much.
Piece. Thank you very much. Okay. Deputy Mayor.
I move that the presentation by Thomas Hart, Executive Director, Patient Care and Deputy Chief Nursing Executive from Kingston Health Sciences Centre regarding services and operations at the Transitional Care Unit at the Windsor be received.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Budrick. Call the question on favor. Motion is passed. Next item is open forum. So 15 minutes of the meeting has been set aside for open forum. Individuals may address council regarding an item which is on the agenda, excluding matters under the Statutory Public Meetings section on the same agenda. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. Don't believe we had anyone pre-register. Just looking at the clerk's department, no one pre-registered. So what I will do is I will open it up in chambers first for anyone that wishes to speak. And you can come forward and present to council for 3 minutes, and then I will go to the virtual audience and see if there's anyone in the virtual audience. So first I'll go in chambers here. If there's anyone in chambers that wishes to speak to council this evening on an item that is on the agenda, could you just please raise your hand? Yep. That was a presentation, so that was just for council's input and discussion. Yeah. Yes, it's an item on the agenda. The actual item, 11.4, which is the Windsor, the rezoning bylaw that you can speak to, just not the information that was presented so much. So yes, if that's what you wish. Okay, please just come forward. And push the button on the mic so that the green light comes on, and everyone will be able to hear you virtually as well then.
Yeah, and thank you. Yeah, thanks again. Yeah, I don't have any major thing prepared. I guess I just wanted to speak from the heart. Everybody kind of knows that I'm against it, and my main worry just with this whole time has just been that that this really big company will kind of use the parking as kind of a way to excuse my term, but like worm its way into, you know, getting other stuff done and changing bylaws and stuff. And it's just the precedent of granting permissions to this development before the rest of the road in the neighborhood is done is just going to, over time, mold the neighborhood in our township to them. It's yeah, it's makes me uncomfortable. I mean, I just I know that everything that they're trying to do, well, a lot of what they're trying to do is solve the problem, and that's, you know, very difficult when they, you know, have one thing going on with the parking and then are also doing these renovations and stuff. And I want to, you know, allow the problem to be fixed without, you know, scolding them for that thing exactly. It's just my main concern is just the care, because this is such a large company that this kind of municipality and zoning can't be looked after, and just the general attitude that if their bylaw wasn't to go their way, they would, you know, take us to the land tribunal and sue us in court. And I'm speaking us as a member of the township, and kind of drain us dry or something like that. So it's just kind of a concern of being bullied. I don't feel as a member of the street that they are equal neighbors to us, and their initial plea to, you know, amend the Residential Uses Act and have themselves, you know, considered residences when it's primarily a temporary facility is, I think, bad form and bad taste. That's just kind of what I wanted to say. And I've seen, you know, since the pandemic, it's been exacerbated. Just larger and larger companies just kind of ignoring the common man and woman and common problems. And I just worry with this, it will beget and diminish the voices of individual residents on our street and in our neighborhood. And, you know, once that foundation is laid, all of the stuff going forward will be, well, we already started this, so we got to finish it. So it's just I'm afraid of the inertia of being crushed by a development on my street is all. And thanks for considering those words.
Okay.
Oh, and William Hume 11 Park Crescent. Yeah.
Thank you. And just for clarification, the process that we've been going through with the zoning, that is addressing a lot of what I believe your concerns that you mentioned. And then there is the site plan approval, which will also address the on-site issues and make sure that the items that have been brought forward are in the site plan that would be agreed upon. So then it would be binding. What I'm saying is everything in the zoning and everything in the site plan agreement would be binding on the owner. And for the township, they would work together to make sure that it was binding on both. So it will be addressed that way. And there are timeframes on that as well. So that is a big item, I think, because I think that's the process that we have to follow. It's provincially laid out and mandated process, and that's a process that we're working through now. So I just wanted to mention that when we're considering the zoning bylaw and then when staff are considering the site plan approval, that's where all of these items are brought in to make sure that the township is addressed and taken care of, as well as the residents in the area. So, okay? Okay, thank you. Normally, I don't expand too much on open forum because it's more we receive, but I didn't want to ignore the concerns that you have brought forward. So, thank you. If there's anyone else in the audience, please come forward. Same thing, just push the button until the green light comes on and provide us with your information.
My name's Steve Cotter. I live at 34 Park Crescent. First, I want to thank KGHC for coming in and presenting, because that cleared up a lot of stuff. I really wish that was at the beginning, because it would have solved a lot of time. Councillor, you brought up what I'm going to call the 3 levels of management for that facility, which worries me a little bit, because as residents, who do we go to? So is it KGHC? Is it the landlord? So that sort of stuff still needs to be brought up. And yeah, so I'm just going through my notes because I talked about who the employees are. So today I had a letter dropped off in my mailbox about the Park Crescent refinishing of the road. You saw in the presentation, the remodel has to be done before March 2027, or next year. The school that's going on, that's being built, the demolition is set for summer 2027. So you're gonna refinish the road in 2026 and then watch all the construction equipment come in and demolish the building and then wreck the road. So I'm obviously a little bit concerned about that as well. So you talked about the master plan site. I'm hoping the planners take that all into effect. This small infill subdivision of ours has gone through a lot. We finally had our developer finish the work, and there was a lot of problems with that developer. Now we have this Windsor thing, we have the school ongoing. It's 250 meters of road, but it seems a lot of the development and a lot of the problems are in this one area. And as residents, we're constantly being bombarded by this. And it's frustrating. I think you can tell by what we've gone through. And I just want to make sure that, our voices are being heard. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for bringing that forward. And yes, you are heard. It is a busy little area. Anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak on open forum? Seeing none, I will go to the virtual audience. If there's anyone in the virtual audience that wishes to speak under open forum, please use the raised hand feature and you can be brought in the meeting.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not seeing anyone in the virtual audience with their hand raised.
Okay, thank you. So that completes the open forum portion. So the next item up is the 2026 Spring Strategic Plan Update. CAO, come forward. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
I have nothing further to add. This is part of the council's strategic plan, which was set from 2023 to 2027. So we're nearing the end of it, but really have about one more year left in this term. A dashboard was set with initiatives with council and staff to set these initiatives, and we're progressing quite well. There's a few items perhaps that are delayed because of competing priorities and or you have to do one thing first. But I'm happy to say that a lot of the initiatives that council set have been completed already. And I want to draw council and the public's attention to the annual report, which was new last year and is now coming out again. So the annual report is in the consent agenda tonight, but it showcases all the things that we've been able together to complete in the last year. And every time I see it, it's a bit amazing of how many things our little municipality is able to achieve. And I just commend everybody to have a look at that.
Thank you. Are there any questions for clarification before we entertain a motion? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Would someone like to put it on the floor? Councillor Willis.
I move that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer dated March 24th, 2026, re 2026 Spring Strategic Plan Update be received, and that council advise staff of any change in priorities for the remainder of the term of the strategic plan.
So moved. Now,
Is that what we want to move?
so were there any items that council wish to add at this time? In that case, item 2 would be mute, but that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parks, any comments from the mover?
Thank you to staff for all of the work that goes into this, because we set some very high goals. So thank you.
Seconder? Other members? I too just want to thank staff for accomplishing what has been accomplished. When you go through the chart, there's a lot of green that's already been completed and a number of yellow that's underway or being delayed. As you said, we do have a lot of big projects underway, and we have got some grants and some funding which we need to act on, so we had to manage our time. But I think we've been very successful to date. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Gravel pit appeals update. Welcome, Director. Did you have anything additional to share?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing really other than reports basically for two purposes. One, to just give council an update on where these appeals are at. They've been ongoing for a couple of years now. And the second part is basically just asking council to delegate authority to my position to kind of finalize these with the ARB and or any other thing that may come up with them. And then I'll bring a report back to council once they've been finalized.
Thank you. Council, we have a recommendation before us. Councillor Ennis.
Move that the report from the Finance Division dated March 24th, 2026, re-gravel pit appeals be received. 2, the council delegates authority to the Director of Finance Treasurer to finalize the remaining appeals. And 3, the council directs staff to report back to council once the remaining appeals have been finalized.
So moved. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Townend. Any comments from the mover? Seconder? Other members? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Hot to Trot Stables 2026 noise exemption request. Welcome.
Thank you. We did have an additional attachment be sent to us from the event organizers. In the attachment, they highlighted the specific dates they're hoping to run the event. All the other dates that you'll see listed in attachment number 2 are rain dates in case they aren't able to run it on the dates they had identified. So I will just pull that on the screen.
Okay. Please do. So just for clarification, the ones highlighted in yellow, which ones are they?
So those are the days that they're planning to host the events. The others are rain dates.
That's great clarification. Thank you. Did you have anything else to provide? or-
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Broderick? Ready for a motion? Please proceed.
Would recommend that the report from the Clerk's Division dated March 24th, 2026, Hot Trot Stables 2026 noise exemption request be received, and that council approve the exemption request from noise prohibition under Schedule 2, Activity 2 of the noise bylaw for all dates and times listed in the attachment 2.
So moved. Seconded by Councilor Budrick. Any comments for the mover?
Just one, this is my annual eating of crow because the first time this came to council, I voted against it. And in 2 years, everything's been good. So good work, people.
Sorry, seconder, any comments? Other members of council? Call the question. All in favor? Motion has passed. Thank you. And the next up is the recommendation report, the Windsor 24 Park Crescent zoning bylaw amendment. Welcome, everyone. Did you have anything additional to share this evening or just here to answer questions?
Through the mayor, nothing further, just here to answer questions. Thank you.
Good, thank you. So we do have a recommendation before us. I guess just with the amount of discussion on this, are there any questions for clarification, strictly clarification for staff before we receive the motion? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion if someone was willing to put it on the floor. Deputy Mayor Townend?
I move that the report from the Development Services Division, March 24th, 2026, recommendation report, the Windsor 24 Park Crescent zoning bylaw amendment D14-012-2024 be received, and that the application to amend the zoning bylaw D14-012-2024 be approved, and that the bylaw 2026-8, being a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw to permit an alternative health facility and add additional site-specific provisions within the residential type 6 exception 1 R61 zone be enacted and passed.
So moved. Seconded by Councilor Broderick. Any comments from the mover?
Not at this time, Your Worship, because I think we will be making some subsequent motions that we can
Okay.
all discuss then.
Seconder, any comments?
I think I'll go with the same thought process.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Here's the.
Do we have the subsequent motion we can put on the floor, please, or on the screen, I guess?
Once it's up, we'll give a minute for everyone to read it, and then I would be looking for a motion. Okay. Would you like to make that motion,
Sure.
Councilor Broderick?
I would move that council direct staff to bring forward a review of the parking bylaw to consider timed parking restrictions on Park Crescent.
So moved. Seconded by Councilor Budrick. Comments from the mover?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. We've had lots of presentations. Yeah, I think the views of the populace along Park are fairly clear. As Steve said earlier, sorry, Steve, I didn't write down your last name. The governance piece being displayed or talked about today makes it a little easier, and I think the comments made by our speakers will be dealt with at the Kingston Health Sciences Centre. The parking issue, the school, construction, all these different things, it's like the residents have been bombarded for X number of years. And I'm hoping that we can develop a parking through the staff, some kind of parking zoning commitment to whatever that alleviates some of that stress. And that further down the road, when the building across the street is finished, we might look at a more permanent solution to some of the stresses on Park Street, because we all know when it was built, the entrance to the old church was there, but certainly it was a different once a week type thing. And having been a member of that parish, we didn't fill the parking lot very often. So I can appreciate what the residents have said. And I usually don't say this, but I know the deputy will probably say it. Our hands are tied in terms of legislation, Ontario Land Tribunal, and this is the best result of, for the residents, a situation that is challenging at best.
Thank you. Seconder?
Just hope that the residents can be patient with the construction a little bit longer. We will have an adequate solution proposed by staff. I can guarantee that.
Thank you. Other members? Deputy Mayor?
I would just echo some of what Councillor Broderick has said. I think for all of us up here, we want the public on Park to know that we've heard them, and that we are doing what we can within the limited tool set that we have to try and address those concerns meaningfully. I mean, Councillor Broderick also mentioned, I won't go on my soapbox. I have many times about the, perfunctory nature of public meetings under the Planning Act that we do that give the public the impression that we have power that we don't. But anyway, I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Other members of council, comments? Just before going back to the mover, I did want to just address the one comment that was made during open forum as well, about, large corporations bullying the township. The Ontario Land Tribunal is an option for every developer. If they believe that the township has made a decision that maybe isn't correct or doesn't suit the needs, there is an option for every developer to go to the Ontario Land Tribunal, appeal the council decision, and leave it up to the provincial representatives. But when they look at it strictly by the facts. Does it meet the minimum requirements or does it not? And so, although it's an option that can be done, the outcome is never known until the outcome is provided to the public. So it can be a tricky way for both sides. But with that said, I just wanted to clarify that you don't have to be a certain size to be able to use it. It is an option for any developer within Ontario. So with that, back to the mover for final.
I would just make the following, just a brief comment that, Thomas, your presentation, if I'm hoping that when you go back to your team meetings that, how you can communicate better with the residents. And I think you made a good point about who do they go to if they have an issue. And I think if you could get that out to the public, that would be a great step in direction of sort of collaboration in the community. That's all.
Good point. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Draft plan approval extension, Lakeview subdivision. I guess you're already here. Is there anything additional for this item?
Through the mayor, no, we have nothing further. Just here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, we do have a recommendation before us. Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Yes. Do you have a question for clarification? Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. Previously, we've talked about not having approvals go on forever because it holds up sewer and water capacity. Is this holding up sewer and water capacity that could be allocated to other developers who are ready to put shovels in the ground?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. In this case, no, the private developer owns the capacity through historic agreements with the Village of Bath. So it's not like our other developments in Amherstview or Odessa. It's controlled by them regardless of the draft plan approval.
Okay. So I'll go back to, there is a motion or a recommendation. Deputy Mayor.
I move that the report from the Development Services Division, March 24th, 2026, redraft plan approval extension 2446830 Ontario Limited Lakeview subdivision be received and that the following be adopted. 1, that the request from Walter Abicht on behalf of 2446830 Ontario Limited requesting an extension of draft plan approval for Lakeview subdivision be received. 2, that pursuant to Section 5133 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended, draft plan approval for Lakeview subdivision, file number D12-280-0001 is hereby extended to April 24th, 2029. 3, that pursuant to Section 5144 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended, Condition 1 of the draft plan approval to Lakeview subdivision be amended to read as follows. 1, the draft plan approval, unless extended, shall lapse on April 24th, 2029. And 4, pursuant to Section 5147, Council for the Corporation of Loyalist Township deems the change to the conditions to be minor for the Lakeview draft plan approval of subdivision.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Willis. Any comments from the mover? Seconder? Other members of council? Councillor Broderick.
Just sort of follow up on Councillor Willis. I just wonder in a sense how many extensions you give, given that this was approved in 2017. That's just a comment.
Other members of council? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. And a request to remove the holding symbol Lakeside Ponds Phase 2, Stage 4.
Thank you. Through the mayor again, just here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
Through the mayor, I move that the report from the Development Services Division, March 24th, 2026, re 2024162 Ontario Limited, request to remove holding symbol Lakeside Ponds Phase 2 Stage 4 be received, and 2, that bylaw 2026-12 being a bylaw to remove the holding symbol with respect to Lakeside Ponds Phase 2 Stage 4 be enacted and passed.
So moved. Seconded by Councillor Parks. Comments from the mover? Seconder? Other members? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. And now we're on to the W.J. Henderson Community Center Renewal Business Case Update. Welcome. I can see you do have a presentation to provide, so whenever you're ready, just please proceed.
Thank you very much, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This is the updated business case for the W.J. Henderson Community Center Renewal Project. So as council will remember, back in November 2023, staff brought forward the validation report, which outlined the scope of the W.J. project, as well as the business case, which presented the financing and operational costs for the project and future operations of the facility. Included in that business case were a number of assumptions made about both expenses that would be incurred, as well as funding that would be secured or not. And so this presentation is intended to provide a comprehensive update, or sorry, the report is intended to provide a comprehensive update to the business case itself. The presentation will provide a brief summary of the report. We won't be going into every detail of the report, but staff are here and happy to answer any questions that council may have. So the agenda for the presentation follows along roughly with the business case report itself. So we'll go through one-time revenue and capital cost. At that point, I'll hand it off to my colleague, Matthew Sobalski, to go through the operating financial summary before going to David Clazy for the operating budget impacts. So on the screen in what I see is tiny print is a summary of all the funding sources, one-time funding sources that the township has secured or not based on what was presented in the initial validation report. So again, I'm not going to go through every list item on here in detail, but I will just highlight two particular ones of note. So the first is the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund. So that fund provided by the province of Ontario was not initially projected in the original validation report, but the staff has secured the approximately $9.2 million that is included there. So obviously that's a large change for the better to the township. So that was excellent news. The second one that I wanted to highlight was the community fundraising target. So you can see in the initial validation, it was assumed that the township would secure $900,000 as a one-time revenue source. The current projection has been revised to $200,000. And so that was a decision made in consultation with the fundraising consultant. And the fundraising target itself was increased, I believe, to $1.8 million. The exact number would be in the report. But it has shifted the way the revenue is coming in. So the one-time revenue source was decreased to $200,000, but the ongoing revenue from sponsorships and naming rights was increased correspondingly. So while the total community fundraising target has been increased, right now it's showing as a decrease, but later in the presentation, my colleagues will touch on where that additional revenue comes in. So the flip side of the one-time revenues is the project capital costs. And so again, similarly, I'm not going to go through the full list in detail, but we are going to spend a bit of time on the largest deviation, which is the IPD contract project costs. So this is the construction contract for the physical works. And it's not other costs incurred by the township related to, purchasing tables and chairs or, some of the fundraising expenses and things like that. So as was previously presented to council during the validation report and in lead up to that, the IPD contract is a unique contract model, which places the contractor, the IPD team, their profit at risk. And so the intent of the IPD contract is to incentivize the contractors by having that profit at risk to improve efficiencies, bring forward different solutions to intended to save the township money. Under the contract, there's 4 potential outcomes that can be achieved within that scenarios. So the 4 scenarios are based around what has been deemed in the contract the final target cost. And so that final target cost is arrived at by taking the reimbursable costs plus approved changes and plus the profit to identify where it is. But then based on where the final construction costs land dictates how much profit the IPD project team actually makes. And so we'll go through this in a bit more detail, but on the next couple slides, but the basic scenarios are under scenario 1, the costs come in exactly as projected. The profit the partners make is exactly as identified. The township has that number at the final target cost, and we pay exactly the final target cost. Under scenario 2, the costs come in under the final target cost, which means the IPD partners make less profit or make more profit, and the township pays less money overall on the project compared to the final target cost. Under scenario 3, the costs come in higher than projected, but what happens is the IPD partners make less profit, and the township still pays the final target cost. And then under scenario 4, the costs come in above the final target cost to the point that the IPD partners are making no profit. And so unfortunately, we are in the scenario where those costs for the project have come in above the final target cost, which means the township is paying more. But that does mean that under the contract, none of the IPD partners are making any profit on this. And so that is one of the benefits of the contract selection that we've done is when compared to a traditional design bid build approach, the profit would be more secured. Contractors would bid on different documents, and through that process, the projected profit that they would have made through that is approximately $3.6 million as identified in the staff report. So while the costs are coming in above what was initially identified in the validation report, it is important to note that difference compared to a traditional project where the costs would have been that much higher. So how did we get to this point in terms of the validation budget as was presented? Showed the construction cost to be $40.4 million, the contingency on the project to be $2.9 million, and the profit identified to be 3.1. So that all summed to 46.4 million, and that was all as was identified within the validation report. So when we're looking at calculating the final target cost, what we do is we take that validation budget, and then we add in the two other buckets that are identified there, which are the unforeseen conditions. So these are items that were not reasonably contemplated within the contract documents. There is an extensive list within the report of what these items constitute, but things like the sanitary sewer that was uncovered to not be code compliant, which was an existing condition which was not known during the design phase of the project and could not have been reasonably included by the IPD project team within the contract. So those types of items are what's in that unforeseen conditions list. And again, I'm not going to go through it in full detail, but it is included within the business case. And then the last bucket there is township requested changes. And so these are items that, again, were not identified in validation, but the township deemed them necessary to the completion of the project. It is a much smaller bucket, and that is detailed within the report as well. And I'm not going to go through them in detail, but there are things like a few items to support fundraising and those types of different requests that the township has made. So once the final target cost is set, to calculate what the township is actually paying, which is the estimated cost at completion, you take that initial construction budget, the 40.4 as was identified in the validation report. You add in the unforeseen conditions and the township requested changes. And the last number there is the cost escalation. And so the cost escalation represents the differences in the items from the validation budget that are reasonably contemplated within the contract. So an example of that is a difference in the estimating between, the validation report in terms of the scope of drywall versus what the final cost for drywall actually was. And so these cost escalation parts, what they have done is because they have increased above the final target cost, that is where the lost profit from the IPD partners has arisen. So when you sum all of those up, we get the total cost of 53.7 for the final construction cost. And again, emphasizing that it is an unfortunate scenario to be in, but the IPD partners aren't making profit. And there's been a number of challenges that we've worked through. But at the end of the day, the facility is going to be a beautiful facility. I think everyone is very proud of what's being done, and it should be reflected in the final project outcomes. So when we're looking at the capital costs and one-time revenue comparisons, so the two stacked bar graphs on the left are what was presented in the validation report. So comparing capital cost and one-time revenue, we identified a funding gap of $8.2 million. And this funding gap represents the amount that's to be debt financed that would impact the general tax rate. And then when you look at the two bar graphs, stacked bar graphs on the right-hand side, that's where we sit today in that comparison. And you can see that the funding gap has increased to $10.6 million. So with that, I'll turn things over to Matthew.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you. Sorry about that, folks. Thank you, Luke. I appreciate that. So I'll be sharing today with public office through your worship's designation are some of our operational expenses that are going to be impacted through this business case update. So just framing what we are looking at here on slide 10, this is a contrast to some of the operational expenses, comparing 2026 validation versus the revised business case included here in 2027. So some additional framing to consider as we go through these next two slides. The business case update refreshes operating assumptions for the renewed WJHCC project. The validation report assumed the first full year of operations would be 2026, but based on the revised project schedule, here we are today. So we can just go over here. Perfect. Thanks, Luke. So as we go through this slide here, which does break down the itemized line of different drivers and increases, we can go through the nuances and details for each affected one. So starting off, our largest operating cost driver is our staffing. So staffing is the most significant operating cost driver. The update does refine the current staffing model, particularly for aquatics, but some of the details we're looking at are as follows. So total staffing is projected in the revised report for 2027 compared to the previous report, outlining an increase to our staffing model at $535,000. Where that increase does show up is $12,000 for our administrative capacities and areas versus 2026 validation. For arena capacities and areas, there is a variance or an increase of $223,000 versus 2026 validation. And in our aquatics, we do have a variance of $299,000 for current projections versus validation. So some important context for public office to consider of where these increases do arise from. So as stated earlier, aquatics does drive most of this variance. So our updated 2027 operating model does reflect some staffing needs that are required to safely run a two-pool aquatic center. Majority of these needs are based in lifeguard and instructor coverage, supervision across two pools for simultaneous programs, as well as operational backfill for training and stat holiday dates. This is the largest contributor to the variance versus the prior validation for staffing assumptions, as well as we have come across some more complete and accurate costing models versus the validation report, specifically correlating to correct and refined staffing allocations and wage costing that were not fully captured previously. So these positions in reference are how our facility supervisors' roles were allocated towards the different areas in the previous validation versus this current updated report. Next section, we do have some of the energy costs. So energy cost forecasting remains challenging, mostly because electricity pricing has been extremely volatile throughout this project in recent years. So why this matters to the business case. So when we were preparing the validation report, the rate that was utilized for many of these projections was the 2022 electricity rate with inflation applied going forward. But however, the township's electricity rates have increased roughly by 25% in the next billing years, which was 2023, and that created a significant variance from our validation assumptions and expectations. So that actual variance is an increase of $121,000 over our previous assumptions and projections. In Table 10 of the report, there is an outlining chart that does break down the three scenarios that we did review when considering some of these costing impacts for electricity. So the report does note electricity costs are mostly attributable in part to the updated modeling for forecasting higher energy use across the footprint of the facility. So beyond staffing and energy, the update also revises the remaining general operating cost assumptions. So we did have some general operating cost assumptions from the previous report to this report that are reflecting an increase of just over $7,000, or a decrease, sorry, of just over $7,000. Some of the key line items that are attributing to this decrease are we do have some savings that have been identified through insurance and other fees. We have been able to reduce our advertising line as well from $60,000 to $44,000. So some of the different, let's say, nuances that did impact these decisions were supplies and equipment did reflect some inflation and updated operational needs. Insurance was decreased, reflected some renegotiated premiums for the updated facility. Contracted services did increase slightly just to reflect some higher demand and escalation for outsourced work and essential service agreements for operation of the aquatic center. And advertising decreases were mainly due to targeted cost optimization with a refocus particularly towards aquatic staff recruitment as well as the aquatic center reopening. Next area I'll be speaking to is some of the arena revenues. So we'll be comparing our 2027 revised projections versus validation projections. So total arena revenue in our 2027 projection is an improvement of just over $27,000 based off 2026 validation. Majority of this is influenced by an improvement and an increase to our rental and programming revenue line. So we're anticipating that will be going up by just under $12,000 with better utilization of our facility areas. And our CIF will be improving by just under $4,500. Next area that we'll be reviewing is the aquatic revenue impacts. So we do see some broad-based improvements across the board for our aquatic revenues in our revised forecast. So in our 2027 revised projection, we are reflecting an improvement of $33,460 to the bottom line for revenues. Majority of this increase is attributed to increased revenue from our private lessons, increased revenue from our children's swimming lessons, as well as increased revenue from pool rental, again, following an alignment with better utilization of the available time that is rentable. So overall, we'd be looking at total overall aquatic revenue increases by just over $33,000 compared to the 2026 validation report. Next, we'll be reviewing some other facility revenues. So we do have an improvement So an increase from our previous projection in 2026 validation report to the 2027 revised projection of just over $5,600. Most of this is attributed to the fact that we will have some increased sales towards pro shop sales services within the WJHCC, as well as an increased rental capacity for our community rooms and legacy spaces that will have some higher booking and incremental demand associated with it. So overall, the update uses 2027 as the first comparable full year and refines our operating model predominantly in aquatics. And electricity costs are the key operating pressures, while arena and aquatic revenue assumptions still show improvement, and other facility revenue assumptions are slightly stronger but remain conservative going forward to try to ensure success. To break down further some of the operational budget impacts, as well as considerations towards potential tax levy conversations, I will be passing over the presentation to our Finance Director, David.
All right, thanks, Matthew. So I'll talk about the remaining lines on the slide. And the first one I'm going to talk about is the debt servicing cost. And as Luke mentioned before, in the original validation report, that number was based on the 8.2 million shortfall in the funding. And now the revised number of 660 is based on the 10.6 million. So that's based on a 30-year loan period, and it's based on basically the prevailing rates that we can secure that through Infrastructure Ontario at the moment. The next item I'm going to talk about is the sponsorship and naming rights. And Luke referred to this earlier in his presentation. This relates to the revised number of 1.8 million that we are now looking at to secure through sponsorships and naming rights. And so the majority or all of that revenue will be receiving that over a number of years. And so the premise of receiving that 1.8 million over 10 years results in about $180,000 a year of revenue that we would receive. And that's obviously up from the 25 that was in the original validation report. The remaining two items are items for discussion that basically I'm suggesting we leave in the report for now because they were in the original validation report, but I think they're items that I'm suggesting that we have more discussion on around those at the operating budget. So the premise of these two items are basically reallocating some money that's currently being put into our capital reserve for future capital purchases to basically offset some of these costs. So I think since the validation report was done, council's received the township's asset management plan. And so I think there's bigger discussions to have around the reallocation of that money. But I think it's more or makes more sense to have that discussion at operating budget time when we have all of the other impacts for 27 to have a fulsome discussion, the best path forward with that. So based on all of those items, the revised amount for yearly amount or impact to the operating budget is $737,000. Next slide, please. So the good news is that of that $737,000, we actually built in $479,000 of that in the 2026 operating budget. So we started to build in some of the amount for the debt repayment, and we also built in a fair sized chunk of the staffing costs because we've already budgeted for at least a half a year of operations for the facility. So there is a significant portion of that already built in. In addition, we'll have the $180,000 of revenue on top of that coming in for the sponsorship revenue. So that really only leaves about $78,000-$79,000 left to build in, or potentially build into the tax rate in 27, which results in about 1/3% tax increase. So again, that's based on the reallocation of those reserve transfers. But again, that's a bigger discussion to have once we have all the other factors for the 27 budget. So that's really, I'm going to say, my update as far as the impacts on the budget. And I think at this point, we're open to questions from council.
Thank you. Council, any questions at this time? Councillor Willis.
Thank you, through your worship, to Matthew. I need help bridging the $534,000 in staffing costs, because you mentioned that it's about running a two-pool center, and it was always planned to be a two-pool center. So how did we miss the staffing needs for this facility by 500,000?
So there was a portion, as I alluded to, Counselor. So this is through your worship back to yourself, Counselor Willis. We did have a portion of our facility supervisor and assistant facility supervisor positions that weren't allocated correctly. So that does make up a decent portion of that, probably about 35%. And then we have about, for our part-time aquatic roster, in original validations, we were looking at rosters between 20 and 30, and now we're looking at a roster of 30 to 50.
Continue.
Why the increase in that roster?
Ultimately, it's mostly due to just having the depth in our roster. So predominantly, a lot of these positions will be part-time students. So we need to work around what availability they have within their schedules, that we can maintain an operational business schedule.
Okay, other, Councillor Broderick.
I'm just hypothetical, Luke, okay? I'm talking to the sewer work or the sewage, what had to be done. At some point, that would have had to have been done, right? And it would have been probably, I'm just guessing, it would have been, surprise, Monday morning, here's what you got to do. And that, it's an investment probably in future infrastructure we would have had to do anyways, right?
Through you, that's correct. And it's beneficial that we found it when we did, because it was during summer when the rink isn't in. The sewer line in particular runs under all the change rooms, and we had to rip out parts of the change rooms, showers. So if an issue had have occurred during an operating hockey season, it would have potentially shut the arena down. So it did set us back about 2 weeks in opening the rink in 2024. But that's much better than shutting down in January of 2030.
A follow-up to that, just so I'm paired with information when I get asked these questions. In a general ballpark, what did that just one specific finding cost?
Yeah, so the work associated with the sewer itself costed about $600,000. The exact number will be in the report. But paired with that was a number of other items that we had to do to accelerate the schedule related to increased staffing from our contractors to make sure that we still opened the arena on time. So there's additional costs that were associated with that.
Any other questions at this time? Seeing none? We have a recommendation before us. Would someone like to put it on the Councillor Prime?
I would move that the report from the Engineering and Environment Division dated March 24th, 2026, read W.J. Henderson Community Center Renewal Business Case Update be received, and that council approve a capital budget increase to $59,400,000 for cost center 170016 W.J. Henderson Community Center renewal with the funding as identified in the report, and that council direct staff to bring back the corresponding operating budget proposals outlined in the business case in the 2027 operating budget.
So moved. We have a seconder. Councillor Broderick. Comments from the mover?
Just in general, obviously thank you for the work, and that I'll make an analogy. We've all had housework done and you find the surprise behind the drywall. And when you do a project like this, it's a little bigger than a little surprise behind the drywall, but I know staff work to keep that as low as possible.
You, seconder?
And I know the mover can agree to this, and other members on council as well. Traveling around to different communities to see facilities that other municipalities have. This is one to be proud of, considering its age and the work that has gone into it to keep it what it is.
Thank you. Other members of council? Seeing none, I'd just like to say thank you for the update. I'm in doesn't come without a cost, but it's great to get the update. And just when I was going through the project site last week, I guess it was now, with Latham representatives from Latham Pools, I guess the one term that kept coming up is this is a generational project. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying, Councillor Budrick, where we are taking on a significant project for a township this size. We are succeeding. We have run into a few extras, but we're going to complete it. We're going to be able to enjoy it. And I'm thankful that the next generation will be able to enjoy it just like we have when our forefathers originally built the project. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Next up, replacement of 2005 John Deere tractor.
Arm these days.
Welcome. Did you have anything additional to share?
Nothing further, just questions.
Okay. Are there any questions for clarification in this? That's Deputy Mayor Townend.
False.
There we go.
I move that the report from the Public Works Division dated March 24th, 2026, replacement of T 2505 2005 John Deere 6615 tractor be received. 2, that council authorize staff to proceed with the replacement of T 2505 through the LAS canoe procurement program with a new similar tractor that can accommodate the new rear and side flail motors. And 3, that council authorize the funds for this replacement to come out of the fleet reserve in the amount of $200,000.
So moved. I have a seconder. Councillor Willis, anything from the mover?
Always a good day when you get a new tractor.
You gotta love it. Seconder? Anyone else? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Okay, next up is application to the Green Municipal Fund. Do you have anything additional to share? We do have the recommendation. Would someone like to put a motion on? Councillor Broderick.
We'll shoot and match. Here we go. I recommend that the report from the Community and Customer Services Department dated March 24th, 2026, reapplication of the Green Municipal Fund Growing Canada's Community Canopies be received and that council adopt the following support resolution. Whereas Loyalist Township supports initiative that advance climate resilience, community well-being, and the expansion and stewardship of municipal tree canopy. And whereas Loyalist Township wishes to develop an urban forestry management plan, including data assessment analysis, therefore it be resolved that Loyalist Township supports an application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Growing Canada's Community Canopies Initiative for the development of urban forest management plan, and further that council acknowledges that the GCCC program includes maximum funding limits as set out by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and that any funding approved for this project will be subject to those program terms and conditions.
So moved. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Townend. Comments from the mover? Seconder? Other members? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Fire protection grant. Welcome, Chief. Did you have anything additional to share? Or?
I just want to add that we appreciate the continued support from the province of Ontario for firefighter health and safety. It's great.
It is. Thank you. Would someone like to put the motion on the floor? Deputy Mayor Townend.
I move that the report from the Emergency Services Department dated March 24th, 2026, Fire Protection Grant Transfer Payment Agreement be received. That council authorize the fire chief and chief administrative officer to execute the transfer payment agreement that provides the township with a fire protection grant payment as approved by the Office of the Fire Marshal in the amount of $69,419, and that the funds be allocated to purchase cancer prevention equipment.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Ennis. Comments from the mover?
I would just echo the chief's comments.
Seconder? Other members? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Thank you. Next up is Alto High-Speed Rail Resolution from Cataraqui Conservation Authority. And I didn't check before the meeting. Do we have this so we can put up on the screen to save a lot of reading? Thank you. So the motion, the recommendation has been presented. Would someone like to make a motion to either receive or take action? Councillor Broderick.
I would make a motion to receive it and to send it off to the honorable people mentioned in the resolution.
Receiving support. So moved. Seconded by Councillor Wells. Comments from the mover?
Yeah, just a quick one. At the authority, we had a very robust conversation about different things, and I think this is an issue that needs a little more conversation, and I know that some of the online polls or summaries or whatever, they've been extended another month. So if you haven't got your thoughts in, it's still out there. And I appreciate the talks I've had with people in other townships, and had the pleasure of 2 MPPs and a member of parliament. And it's an issue that is worth further exploration.
Seconder? Other members of council? If you want to. Yeah. I am going to speak to this, and I just want to preface with this is no reflection on the Cataraqui Conservation Authority or any other. I respect the work they do and the people that do represent us at that at the conservation. However, I am not going to support the motion as it's presented, and I'm going to give a little bit of rationale. Well, it might be a little more than a little bit. For one thing, it's the wording of the motion itself, and I'll just read it again. Whereas Cataraqui Conservation has a mandated responsibility under Ontario's Conservation Authorities Act to ensure that development and infrastructure projects within the jurisdiction do not negatively impact the integrity of the watershed. And whereas the currently proposed southern route is likely to intersect or impact wetlands, significant woodlands, agricultural lands, water source protection areas, and ecologically sensitive shoreline systems within the Cataraqui watershed. And then it continues to state that Cataraqui Conservation's recommendation is approved on February 25th, 2026, that Alto commit to studying an alternative southern route near the Highway 401 corridor. So I'm just going to expand on that. It's raising that their concerns are the wetlands, significant woodlands, agricultural lands, source water protection, ecologically sensitive shoreline, and I would just like to point out that all of those are south near the Highway 401 corridor. So rerouting it does not mitigate, I don't believe, any of those. And then to build on that, at the last county council meeting, we approved an updated OP, which did show all these characteristics and a significant number of them located along the southern portion of the county, which would be within Loyalist and the southern portion of Greater Town of Napanee. And then this is on another more of a side note. I believe that anyone that travels the 401 corridor or simply uses Google Maps or Google Earth to view the area, you will see where it would be significant impacts if you follow the general area of the freeway. A few are it's the densest population, significant acreage of prime agricultural land, and when it's not prime, it is high producing land. Significant industrial and commercial developments, major environmentally sensitive lands for wildlife, along with cold and warm water streams that directly impact the well-being of Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence River. And I'd also note that any potential impacts to these streams that would impact the lake will impact Loyalist Township's source water protection areas for both water treatment plants. It's also the highest valued real estate typically. So losing this land to a federally owned and restricted space for a 300-kilometer-an-hour train will remove the tax base from every municipality that it goes through. It will eliminate the businesses that employ the residents and build and transport products and the places people would purchase the necessities of life. I also have concerns, just in my own thoughts, with the federal and provincial governments pitting municipalities against each other to point to alternative routes that are through simply because they don't want the route in their area, or the flip side is they do want it in their area, which means that the preferred routes that were shown there's other options being thrown out there without any justification. And it's just simply that whatever impacts one community will impact the community that the train actually does end up going through. Then you've got finances. Canada's national debt is projected to break $2 billion by the end of the 25-26 fiscal period. And I really struggle with increasing this deficit any further with the virtually no or very limited justification that has been shown to date. And the justification that was originally shown, well, I'll leave it there. I'll admit that the rail system does need to be improved. But they have worked along the existing rail beds before, which would be minimal impact. But the other thing is I guess just from riding on the trains, why are we sitting still on a lay-by, waiting for a very long freight train to get to us, then pass us, and then us be able to safely pull out? If we prioritized people above dollars, I think we could solve a lot of the problems with the existing infrastructure. And that's especially frustrating when you're sitting on a lay-by and you're looking at your watch and you're already late for the appointment that you were intending on being at. But I guess the other thing is we're in 2026. It wasn't that long ago that COVID taught us that we didn't actually have to drive anywhere to have a meeting. We all use Zoom, we all use Teams, and there's a whole bunch of other ones that we can use. So really, the justification for this, I'm questioning who will actually be using it. Because when I'm going to Toronto, as I said, if I take the train, if I didn't have to go on the laybys, I'd be on time. But it's still faster than driving anyway. And you can work while you're on the train. So I guess I just question the need for this if they're saying it's for a lot of professionals that need to travel to meetings at different places. Because yesterday alone, I attended 2 meetings virtually with participants that were from all over the province. no one traveled. They were either at home, in their office, or I guess some of them could have been in their vehicle. They had their camera off, I'm not sure. But I think in today's day and age, we really need to think about, do we want to go in that far in debt? Or is it, do we need to, or is it just because historically people have traveled? So I just think that this whole proposal needs to be rethought with some critical thinking and possibly looking outside the box to make sure that we are making the right decisions. Thank you. Go back to the mover for final. Or sorry, were you going to speak to it, Deputy?
Sure. I was just going to only say for council's information that we did pass a resolution at county council that opposed both the northern and southern routes. And then the East Ontario Wardens Caucus in the past week also passed a very lengthy resolution, the essence of which it too opposed what's proposed in its current form. I think to echo some of the comments that the mayor has made, I do take the point about, municipalities being pitted against one another. And I think in the vacuum of the lack of information from Alto, municipalities have tried to suggest the alternatives. But I mean, I think to put the onus back where it belongs on Alto themselves, there are far more risks and concerns and questions than have been adequately answered. And I think at some of the tables that I'm at, the discussion has been nobody wants to be accused of being a NIMBY, but the simple fact is there are really legitimate concerns, whether they're environmental, economic, social, people's property rights, you name it. And hitherto, Alto has, either shrugged or had nothing. So anyway, but all I wanted to say was just for council's information that both the county and the Wardens Caucus have in various wordings and configurations opposed the project in its current form in both the northern and southern routes.
Thank you. If there's no other comments, I'll go back to the mover.
Thank you. Just a little background. The resolution I'll just throw this out and take it as you may. The Conservation Authority wasn't looking at the economic impact. We were only looking at the environmental. I don't disagree with anything you've said in terms of the economics, because economically, I can't see how it works. There's other solutions that, whether it be, retracking, double tracking. You speak of the long cargo trains. Unfortunately, they own the tracks. That's the biggest problem right now. And, just to look at it a little differently, Go Transit owned 100% by Ontario. They're doing all kinds of work in the Toronto area on the tracks, expansion, et cetera, et cetera. So I think points are well taken. And if this gets defeated, I won't lose any sleep over it.
And I guess I should clarify that Loyalist has not taken a stand officially on this. My comments were personal, not representing the township. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is lost. Now I would take a recommendation for council to resolve into the committee of the whole. Do I have a mover? Councillor Pryber. Councillor Boudrick, second. Call the question. All in favor? Motion is passed. We will go into committee.
Just burn it all down, eh, Trevor? I'm sorry, Trevor, go ahead.
Way to set it up. So I don't have a presentation, anything in addition to the policy that's presented, but happy to answer any questions or take any direction from council.
Perfect. Thanks, Trevor. Questions, council? Yeah, Councillor Willis.
Have you done any research on other municipalities who have taken the action of limiting or of eliminating comments on social media? I've got to believe that there would be pushback on transparency.
Through the chair to Councillor Willis, we have done some research through municipalities in Ontario that have taken this step. Some of our neighboring municipalities have recently done this over the last few months, and we've engaged with their communications staff. Their feedback was that initially there was a bit of pushback, but they've noticed an uptick in communication through their other channels. So instead of, I guess, residents commenting more on comment threads, they've been sending more direct messages, which is more helpful for communication staff because then they can make sure that those requests are redirected in a way that goes through a service request or more trackable forms of communication. In terms of the transparency piece, the thought is that transparency is strengthened by ensuring that residents get the appropriate and accurate information, so that we feel that they can be reinforced through directing them through our official channels or through our engagement platform, which is part of our public engagement framework as well. So that way staff can provide the answers to their questions rather than perhaps misinformation or, well-intentioned residents that are trying to fill the information gap and perhaps providing the wrong information in those situations. And I guess beyond our neighboring municipalities as well, we also participated in a communication conference in the fall of this year, and there were a number of municipalities that we spoke to as well that have taken this step. I'd say, it's not the majority, but I'd say more and more public service organizations are taking this step.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Willis.
In your research with those municipalities, I'm wondering if there is not a situation where a township post would be shared and there would be a side conversation that's not on our radar, or a township post screenshotted and a side conversation. Like, I don't believe that limiting comments on our own posts is going to eliminate the kind of keyboard warring and chatter that's out there. And are you concerned that we're going to lose visibility on it?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Willis, it's a good question. It is part of our strategy right now in terms of monitoring what's happening, on other neighborhood community groups on social media, because there is a lot of discussion there, and it's a good way for us to see, what the community is feeling and what their interpretations of, different things that are impacting them could be. So recent example, we actually had an issue that emerged over the weekend where there was a misinterpretation of what was happening. So we also had that same question that was asked to us on our engagement platform. So through that means we were able to directly address that question and correct the misinterpretation. Through that, we're also identifying a way that we can communicate the correct information as well to our own communication channels. So, we'll continue to monitor those channels and make sure that we're keeping a pulse on that. And I think that will help us inform too, those questions that are being asked on engaged loyalists. That will help us inform, the type of content that we can create to make sure that we're addressing like the gaps in communication and the gaps in information that community members are perceiving as well.
Report of concern. I had always understood that there was regular reporting back to council on things that have come up on the report of concern page and what the resolutions were. And I can't remember seeing a report back on that. Is that the standard, that it gets reported back publicly on what's come through there?
To be honest, do you know that? Through the chair to Councillor Willis, I'm not sure when the last time that would have came through. I know there's sort of service standards protocols and consideration for customer service protocol. That might be something that might be considered as part of that. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly in terms of the metrics for that. Welcome.
Others? Councillor Broderick.
Got to salute you dealing with this every day. And, you know, I think we can't monitor people who want to screenshot our pages and do whatever. And I do think getting the messages out is the best way to do it through the whatever social media and be consistent in that. I know myself, I've left groups that are in the township simply because it just becomes a place to dump on people and, you know, misinformation and so on. I got a question. I want to make this as delicate as possible, but in an employee's exercise their duties, they take a picture. Should that be posted? Like there was a situation, I won't go into it, but where that happened and there was a stream of comments, but I'm just wondering in terms of that, is there anything to protect the township maybe in what some may perceive as less than, I guess, a positive influence on the township? Is there anything in that?
Sure. Through the chair, just to clarify with Councillor Broderick, are you referring to like a situation where a township employee might share a post? Is that correct?
Yes, it's happened.
Okay.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, so as part of the social media policy, that would reference the employee code of conduct. So that would be related to that, and there is language in there precluding that type of behavior for employees. So so that would be handled through HR and the employee code of conduct.
Ms. Campbell, you had something you wanted to contribute?
Thank you. Through the chair, I was mostly coming up for moral support, but I just further to Councillor Willis's question regarding what's reported back to council. So our complaints policy, those complaints are reported back to the senior management team, the directors, and anything that isn't dealt with within the township that goes to the ombudsman, there's reporting that happens with that as well. I think the question might also possibly be referring to service standards that we had a number of years ago. Those have not been reported on recently, and we are, as part of the strategic plan, updating those service standards and putting together a customer service policy for all of these types of questions, and the report of concern tool would be part of that as well. So as part of that process and part of that strategy that we're developing, we'd be happy to roll something in if there's something that the committee wishes for us to include in that in terms of reporting back to council about report of concern or complaints or service standards.
Others? We do have a recommendation. Councillor Broderick?
I would recommend the report from Corporate Services Strategy Innovation Department dated March 24th, 2026, Loyalist Township social media policy be received, and that council approve the Loyalist Township social media policy, and that council repeal the current social media policy 2016 point 10.10.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Broderick. Comments? Mover, seconder, others? Yeah, Councillor Willis.
Thank you. I am not going to support the motion. I do have a concern with it. I know how life-sucking it can be to monitor social media channels. There are third-party companies that can do that for you and turn on social media listening and follow prescribed responses and escalate when something needs to be escalated. Report a concern and engage loyalist are not public forums. People can't see the comments that are coming in. And I think we risk losing transparency and trust because people will not know if we're editing. I think that we have every right to edit comments off social media if it's discriminatory and if we have a policy that says we will take comments down. There may be times that there are actual posts, like I would say a post that is directing people to a survey could have comments turned off because we want them to go to this survey. But I do worry about just flat out saying no comments on our things, because it really, then our social media is just a bulletin board, and we have a website that acts in that capacity. So I would just caution moving forward with this.
Duly noted. Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion is carried. And I take a motion to adjourn Committee of the Whole. Mayor, seconded by Councillor Innes. All those in favor? Motion is carried. We are adjourned Committee of the Whole at 7:57.
Okay, so the next one is, are there any notices of motion to be presented this evening? Seeing none, are there any direct motions to be presented? Seeing none, we have the consent agenda. They can all be addressed together, or if there's any that you wish to extract, we can extract it. Are there any items to be extracted this evening? Seeing none, I would take a motion for them all. Deputy Mayor Townend.
I move that all items in the consent agenda dated March 24th, 2026 be approved as presented and that the necessary action be taken.
So moved, seconded by Councillor Parks. Any comments from the mover, seconder, other members? Call a question. All in favor? Motion is passed. Announcements. Are there any announcements this evening? Councillor Boudreau.
It was fantastic that the municipality acknowledged the passing of 30-year service member Victor Simpkins by lowering the flags. We have a facility at the arena that I spoke to earlier because of a man like him and others who put in the great work there for so many years to keep the place maintained like it was. It's unfortunate he passed, but
Thank you. Other members? Councillor Parks.
Thank you. I just wanted to share a comment or a compliment that I'd received in regards to the Parks and Recreation Department, in regards to the upkeep and the maintenance of the parks in the Village of Bath. This person has been a longtime resident and approached me the other day and wanted to make sure I shared that with staff.
Any other comments? None? Confirmatory bylaw. I take a motion for the confirmatory bylaw. Got your light on.
Oh, do I?
Councillor Parks.
Oh, it's the third light, so I'm okay. I would recommend that bylaw 2026-14 to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Loyalist Township be enacted and passed, and that the mayor and deputy clerk be authorized to sign and seal.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Willis. Call a question. All in favor? Motion is passed. And I would take a motion to adjourn. Councillor Prodrick, seconded by Councillor Ennis. All in favor?